to do desflurane vaporizer. Okay, so that's the first one. Then second we'll do is Aladdin cassette, and then third we'll do is um, the injection type of vaporizer. Okay, so desflurane vaporizer. Now, why do we need a special vaporizer for desflurane? Otherwise, we are using variable bypass vaporizer, or we are using like some for all the other agents, right? Till now, but desflurane needs a specialized vaporizer. So why? Because desflurane has got certain different physical properties than other agents. Okay, so desflurane has got what? A vapor pressure of 669 millimeters mercury at 20 degrees Celsius. Okay, this is the vapor pressure, which is very close. 669 is very close to what? 1 atmosphere 760, right? It's very close to that number. So it starts and it starts boiling at 22.8 degrees. So because of this property, we need a specialized vaporizer. What will happen? Why do we need a specialized vaporizer? So what they used, right? In a for desflurane. So the first reason which I've written is the high evaporative rate. Okay. So at 20 degrees, we know at 20 degrees Celsius, the vapor pressure is 669, right? And it is almost near to 1 atmosphere, which is the value 760 millimeters mercury. Now, suppose you filled up the desflurane. Suppose this variable bypass chamber is there. Remember this chamber, right? Now, suppose I filled up this variable bypass chamber, this chamber with desflurane, for example. Okay. And so when the vapor pressure, what will be the saturated vapor pressure over here? How much will that be? So that would come to 88%, or I mean to say the saturated vapor concentration. Why would it come to 88%? Because what is it? Saturated vapor pressure, if you want to calculate saturated vapor concentration, so that's going to be 669 because that is the value for desflurane. We are at 1 atmosphere, right, at room temp at sea level. And if you multiply this by 100%, right? So the value that you get over here is 88%. So the concentration of desflurane that will be there in this vaporizing chamber will be 88%. How much desflurane we want to deliver to the patient? We want to give only 6%, right? That is a clinical value at which desflurane is used. 5%, 6%. So if I want to dilute 88% to 6%, I want ultimately 6% to go out. Although 88 is here, I want 6 to go out. So can you imagine how much fresh gas flows I will need from the bypass chamber to dilute the 88 to make it 6%, right? So that is not feasible. So that is why this is one of the reasons that we need a specialized vaporizer. Okay. Now the second reason is what? There is a high evaporative rate that we know. More evaporation means what? There will be more cooling, right? So this is a second problem which occurs with desflurane. That if you use variable bypass now vaporizer, which I showed you right now, and the saturated vapor concentration is 88%. So that much volume of desflurane is getting converted to vapor. That means that much cooling will occur in that vaporizing chamber, right? So traditional thermocompensation methods, which we had a thermocompensation cone, right? Or we had a strip. So these devices are not going to be helpful in compensating the heat loss. We have to provide some external heat to a desflurane vaporizer. So that's why we cannot use a variable bypass vaporizer. Okay. Then the third reason why we can't use a variable bypass. So we know that desflurane can boil at OT temperature. The room temperature of the operating theater is what? 22 degrees Celsius, 23 degrees Celsius, right? Isn't that at the temperature at which the desflurane will start to boil? Yeah. If desflurane will start to boil, you cannot control how much will be the output of desflurane. All right. So these are the problems which we want to overcome. Because if we use a variable bypass vaporizer, these are the problems that we will face. Correct. So that is why what they said, we need to use a different vaporizer. And this vaporizer is known as Tech 6, okay, and Tech 6 Plus. So there are two vaporizers. So we have Tech 6 and Tech 6 Plus, which are specialized vaporizers for desflurane only. Okay. Now, this vaporizer is the first one which is, it is electrically heated. So as I told you, desflurane vaporization will cause lots of cooling, right? So you need external heat supply. So it's going to be electrically heated. So the vaporizer that we are using right now, if you know that we have a plug which has to be attached. So it is electrically heated. Okay. And pressurized also. We'll understand how in the structure. Okay. It's electrically heated and it is electrically pressurized. And it's also got another name. It's called dual gas blender. Now, why is it called dual gas blender? We'll understand from its structure. Okay, so this image, I have taken it from Miller's. So this is the structure of the desflurane vaporizer from inside. So on the internal structure of the desflurane vaporizer over here. Okay, so first we'll understand what are the different parts. Okay, so over here, this is the inlet. Okay, for the fresh gas flow. The fresh gas flow from the flow meter enters in. Okay, so there is one circuit over here. There is one circuit over here. So there are two parallel circuits which are going. Okay, this is the fresh gas circuit and this is known as the vapor circuit. Okay, so here what is this now? This is the desflurane sump. Okay, so this is the desflurane. All right, and this is the gas of desflurane. Gaseous desflurane. Okay, this desflurane sump, it's going to be heated. It's going to be always at 39 degrees Celsius. What is the temperature of this sump? It is 39 degrees Celsius. So this sump is always receiving a constant amount of heat, which is 39 degrees Celsius. It does not fluctuate. Okay. Then what is the next part? This is the sump shut-off valve. Shut-off valve. Okay. This is the pressure regulating valve. All right. Then what is this? This is the differential pressure transducer. Okay. This thing over here. Okay. What is CE? CE is called control electronics. Okay. So I'll just put the full form here. All right. Here, this is R1 and this is R2. So R1 is a fixed resistance. It's a fixed resistance. Okay. And R2 is variable. It's a variable resistance. So what is R2 actually? This is actually the concentration control dial, okay, which is on our vaporizer outside. Here is where the mixture occurs, and this is the final output of the vaporizer. Now let's understand the each individual parts and how it works. So as I told you, there are two circuits happening over here, right, in parallel, 1 and 2. So this is having the fresh gas, and here is the movement of the vapors. Okay, so vapors are going to move like this, and fresh gas is going to move above over here like this. Now what happens? Okay, now let's understand. This fresh gas is moving along this fresh gas circuit. It encounters a resistance R1. This R1 resistance is a fixed resistance. The value is fixed. Okay. So when it encounters this resistance, there is some amount of back pressure which will be generated, right? This back pressure will be generated and it will be sensed over here by this pressure transducer. So this pressure that is generated over here is sensed over here. This differential pressure transducer will sense it, that there is a pressure, right? Because there is a difference in the pressure in both the sides, right? So that's why it's called differential pressure transducer. So there's an incoming pressure over here, sensed over here. This message is then converted and sent over to the control electronics, okay? This control electronics receives the message about the pressure, right? Then this control electronics sends the message to whom? To the pressure regulating valve, okay? It sends the message to the pressure regulating valve and also the sump shut-off valve. So basically, now by these arrows, you can understand that the message is received over here. Okay. Now what is happening? Okay. So over here, whereas on this side of the circuit, we have the desflurane sump, right? This sump is basically, this liquid desflurane is being constantly heated and its temperature is maintained at 39 degrees Celsius. All right. Now, this temperature is 39 degrees Celsius. So how much is the vapor over here? What is the pressure, vapor pressure over here? You know that desflurane is boiling at 22.8 degrees, right? So at 22.8 degrees, what's going to happen? The saturated vapor pressure will be equal to the atmospheric pressure, right? Which is 760, correct? So Now we have heated it beyond that. So now the vapor pressure will be more than 760. So how much is the vapor pressure at 39 degrees Celsius? It is around 1300 mmHg. So the pressure inside over here is 1300 mmHg. All right, which is almost equal to 2 atmospheres. Now what is there beyond this? So when I switch on, now this concentration control dial is there over here, right? Which is also known as R2. So when I switch this on, this valve opens up. Okay, the valve is opened and the vapors, vapors of desflurane start moving forward. All right. Now, how are both these circuits interacting with each other? They are interacting with each other with the help of this differential pressure transducer. All right. So the pressure is sensed over here. That pressure value is given over here. The message is passed on over here. This sends a message to the pressure regulating valve. Pressure regulating valve understands, okay, the pressure in this circuit above is so and so, is X. So this pressure regulating valve will set itself such that the pressure with which the vapors leave out, the vapor pressure which leaves out will be equal to the pressure over here. Okay. The aim is what? That we want ultimately the pressure over here and here should be the same. Okay. So now the pressure in the fresh gas circuit and the vapor circuit, this portion will be equal to each other. All right. And this equal pressure is now called as, it's known as working pressure. It's called working pressure. Okay. And what will happen at this working pressure is going to be equal on both sides. The vapors come here. The fresh gas comes from its own circuit. It mixes here, and that's how the output is. Finalized output occurs of the desflurane vaporizer. Okay. So now the thing is that what is determining the working pressure? What is determining the working pressure? How do we know? So it is actually depending on the fresh gas flow, right? This fresh gas flow is going, encountering a resistance, a back pressure is occurring, sensed over here. This sensor is going to then ultimately send a message here, and the same pressure will be developed over here. Equal pressure will be developed over here, right? So this working pressure, from where it's getting reduced? From where? It depends on the fresh gas flow. Okay, so there is a linear relationship between the fresh gas flow and the working pressure of this desflurane vaporizer. Okay, so there is a table which I will just explain. So can I told you the fresh gas flow has a linear relationship, okay, with the working pressure. So let's understand that the fresh gas flow, which is in liter per minute, right? And what is the working pressure? This table is from Miller's only. So what they saw at 1 liter per minute fresh gas flow, no matter which gas I use, the working pressure that is achieved is 7.4 mmHg. Okay. Then they saw at 5 liter per minute, when they increased the fresh gas flow, this became 5 times. So you understand that there is a linear relationship. When they made it 10 liter per minute, they noticed the working pressure was 74. So do you see this linear relationship between the fresh gas flow and the working pressure? The ambient pressure, the ambient atmospheric pressure is going to affect the output of the desflurane vaporizer. So we'll see how. Okay, the varied altitude. So what they saw with the desflurane vaporizer is that the volume percent will remain the same. It remains the same when you calculate it. So what they realized when they did the calculation, that actually how much is going out, when they saw the partial pressure, they saw that volume percent remains the same. But what is getting affected? The partial pressure is getting affected. So the partial pressure gets affected. And the volume percent remains the same. Okay. So what they noted that at high altitude, so high altitude means what? The ambient pressures are low, right? So the partial pressure of desflurane decreases. All right. Now, if the partial pressure decreases, you know that our main concept is what? Partial pressures, right? We don't depend on volume percent, right? Our main understanding is with partial pressures. So partial pressure has reduced. Okay. So that means underdosing. What is the problem that can occur? Underdosing can happen. Why underdosing will happen? If I have set 6%, suppose, on the dial, okay, but actually at 6%, how much partial pressures are supposed to go at the sea level, right? At high altitude, that much is not going. Lesser is going. Although I'm setting 6%, I will feel 6% is going, but in reality, 6 is not going. Less than 6 is going. So underdosing can happen. Same thing at when you're in a hyperbaric environment, okay? So if you're in a hyperbaric environment, wherein what? So the partial pressure will be more or will be increased. Okay, so the spirit partial pressure will increase and you can have overdosing as a problem. Okay, so we have to alter the dial settings. Whatever dial settings we are putting, that needs to be changed depending upon the altitude. Now, how will you know what is the formula to know that if I want to deliver 6%, then actually at 6% the partial pressure that should go. So should I increase it? How much should I increase? Should I make 6 to 8, 8 to 10? Or what should I do? So there is a formula for that. Formula, okay. So what is the required dial setting that I should keep at that particular altitude? Okay. So that is the normal dial setting that I would keep. Okay. Into. So 760, because all the calibrations of the vaporizers have occurred at 760, right? And then what is the ambient upon ambient pressure in millimeter mercury? Because above also we have this in mmHg, right? So mmHg. So now, for example, I am putting a dial setting of 10%. Okay, I am over here at room temp at the sea level. Okay, so at sea level, I am keeping a dial of 10%. Suppose I'm doing a case and I'm keeping a dial of 10%. I want this same partial pressure. So at 10%, the amount of partial pressure which is delivered of desflurane, I want that same partial pressure to be delivered when I am going at a higher altitude. So how much should I keep my dial setting? Because I will have this in mind, right? As an anesthetist, we usually have what? The volume percent in mind. We don't keep the partial pressures as a routine in our mind, correct? So normal dial setting that I would have kept would be 10, right? Into 760. And now my altitude, what is my altitude? What is my ambient pressure? My ambient pressure has come to 608. For example, wherever altitude I am, the ambient pressure is this much. So this, when you solve this equation, it comes to 12.5. Okay. And here's the altitude is 2000. The altitude that we have gone up. How much is the altitude? It is 2000 meters, or also 6564 feet. I have taken this example from Miller's only. So I'm explaining this example from there. So what they said, I took the desflurane vaporizer up to a height of 6,564 feet. At this feet, the ambient pressure was 608. I want to deliver desflurane equivalent to 10% at sea level. So how much should be my dial settings? So I have to increase my dial settings to 12.5. That is when I can be ensured that yes, I'm giving actually the concentration which is going is 10%. Not this. It is actually this much. So when you're going in a hypobaric environment, a higher altitude, you have to increase your dial settings. So remember this, as altitude increases, dial settings have to increase for desflurane. Okay. As your altitude decreases, you go in a hyperbaric environment, your dial settings have to come down. Okay. The next factor which is affecting the output of the desflurane vaporizer is, now see this Tech 6 vaporizers of desflurane have been calibrated with 100% oxygen. All right. And the vaporizer output, the dial settings, everything has been calibrated with 100% oxygen. Now, what will happen when you add another gas? For example, you're adding nitrous, okay, or you're adding air along with oxygen, okay. So the viscosity becomes less. The viscosity of 100% oxygen versus the viscosity of a mixed gas is less. All right. Now, this less viscous mixed gas will cause what? The vaporizer output to fall. How much will the vaporizer output fall? It falls by 20%. Okay, this is another point to remember, that the vaporizer output falls by 20% when we add on another gas such as nitrous. Okay. Now, just quickly, the safety features of desflurane vaporizer. So we know we have agent-specific filling. So this filler is known as safety fill. Okay, safety fill is the filler of desflurane. This is a closed system filling. Okay, so once you know that there is, it will not, there will be no spillage. Okay, when you're filling the vaporizer. Okay, and there is a spring inside that cap, and there is an O-ring. So this will ensure a perfect seal when you're filling the fluid, the desflurane liquid from the bottle to the vaporizer. Okay, so it's a proper interlock which develops. It's a very airtight seal which develops. Okay, the second thing is that there is a shut-off valve. Okay, so there is a shut-off valve will be closed. Now we know this. I erased it. Okay, so you remember there was a sump shut-off valve. There was a shut-off valve over there which I had drawn. I'll just quickly show you in this image that I have made over here. Yes. So you remember this? There was this shut-off valve which was there, right? Yes, so this shut-off valve will close, and what will happen if this valve will close, and from here the vapors will stop. This incoming vapors will stop. When will this occur? When will that valve close completely? Okay, so that will happen when the anesthetic liquid in that sump reduces to less than 20 ml. Okay, so if your liquid level comes to less than 20 ml, or the vaporizer is tilted, okay, or there's a power failure, so it will say no output. It will give you that no output alarm. If you remember the alarms which are there on the surface of the vaporizer, there is a no output alarm. So that is when that happens, when the desflurane sump, that shut-off valve closes completely and doesn't allow the exit of the vapors. Okay, how the Aladdin cassette looks like. Okay, so these are cassettes which are individual for different different anesthetic liquids. All right, but the internal structure remains the same. So I will just show you. Sorry, I will just show you that. Show you this. So this is the, see, this is how they're inserting the cassette into the anesthesia machine. Okay, can you see that person is inserting the cassettes for individual agents? The cassettes are inserted into the anesthesia workstations. So now we have got specialized anesthesia workstations which are compatible with such Aladdin cassettes. Okay, so there are two anesthesia workstations, which is Datex Omeda S5 ADU, and there is a GE ISIS system. All right, so these are electronically controlled vaporizers. Although they work as variable bypass only, when we see the internal structure, you will realize it's very similar to the variable bypass, almost the same. But the whole, you'll understand and realize that this cassette is actually acting like a vaporizing chamber, whereas the rest of the part, which is electronically controlled, everything is inbuilt within the anesthesia workstation itself. All right, so the whole system that is there inside, it's common for all the agents. It's just that each cassette is agent specific based upon its color coding and based upon the magnetic coding. So how will the machine know that, okay, this person is inserting a sevoflurane vaporizer? The machine needs to have some coding, right? For us, there is color, but what for the machine? So machine will understand with the help of the magnetic, it's magnetically coded. So when it inserts inside, it will understand automatically, okay, the sevoflurane cassette has been inserted in. Okay, and the internal structure, functioning, working, which is all electronically controlled, it's common for all the agents. Okay, so now we'll understand the internal structure of this vaporizer. So this is the image of the internal structure of the Aladdin cassette. This internal structure, so this is the actual cassette. Okay, this box over here, this is the Aladdin cassette. This thing. Okay. So this is the Aladdin cassette, whereas all of this is located inside the anesthesia workstation. All right. What we do is we insert this, whereas the overall functional components, everything are common for all the all the different agents. Okay. It is a computer controlled variable bypass vaporizer. Okay. It's unlike the others, are not computer controlled, but this has a CPU, a central processing unit. So therefore, this is known as a computer controlled variable bypass. Why variable bypass? Because I have a bypass chamber here. Fresh gas enters from here, right? This is the fresh gas. This is the bypass chamber. This is the vaporizing chamber. Structure is the same like a variable bypass, right? Now, this is going to be found in two machines, Datex Omeda S5 ADU and the GE ISIS system. All right. So this agent-specific cassette is inserted into the anesthesia workstation. Okay, it is color coded and magnetically coded as I told you previously. Okay, so now what are the parts over here? So you know that, okay, we have a concentration control dial. So where we are going to decide what percentage of the agent we need to deliver, right? So this concentration, so the CPU which is there, it receives inputs from multiple sources. Okay, so one thing is there the concentration control dial. So the input from here, which are shown in a red line, goes to the CPU. All right, because I have set a particular concentration that I want to deliver, right? Then what else do I have? I have a pressure sensor. So this will sense the pressure within the vaporizing chamber. There's a pressure sensor. There is a temperature sensor, which will sense the temperature within the vaporizing chamber. Both of these sensors will send a message again to the CPU. So now CPU is receiving 3 messages from 3 different parts. All right. Next, the CPU also receives message from here. What is this that I have drawn over here? These are also their flow measurement sensors. Okay, so the fresh gas flow which is coming to the bypass chamber will be sensed by this. Okay, the flow measurement device, the flow measurement unit which is located in the bypass chamber. Okay, so this message of this flow rate will come to the CPU. All right. Next, there is this. Now this is the vaporizing chamber output, right? The outlet of the vaporizing chamber. So along the outlet of the vaporizing chamber, you have something known as the, again, there's another sensor, a flow measurement sensor, all right, which is located in the vaporized part of the vaporizing chamber. And this flow also is sensed by the CPU. So CPU is getting inputs from 5 places, all right. The flow, the bypass chamber flow measurement, the vaporizing chamber flow measurement, the concentration control dial, the pressure sensor, temperature sensor. All of these inputs go to the CPU, all right. Now what is happening? Over here, fresh gas flow is getting split, right? So some amount of fresh gas is going through the bypass, some is coming through the vaporizing chamber. Here, the gas which is laden with the vapors will start exiting out and will join the fresh gas. Same that we already know about, right? Now, who is going to determine how much is the split going to occur? Right? There was a splitting ratio in the variable bypass. So here, who's going to split? The splitting will be decided by the fixed resistor. Okay, so this is the fixed resistor which will determine the splitting, okay, between bypass and variable and the vaporizing chamber. All right. So now finally the vapor laden gas is going to leave. Okay. So who is going to control how much vapor laden gas will be leaving out? Because ultimately we want the concentration that we have set, that much should be delivered, right? That message has gone to the CPU. CPU knows that I need to give the concentration that has been set by the anesthetist over here. So how will the CPU regulate that? It's regulated with the, so CPU sends messages to the flow control valve. Okay, this flow control valve is known as the heart of the Aladdin cassette vaporizer. All right, so the CPU sends the message to the flow control valve. When I told you the flow control valve is like the heart, okay, of this whole Aladdin cassette system. So it will determine how much gas, vapor laden gas, will leave and will join the fresh gas to give the ultimate concentration that we want. Okay, and there is also a one-way check valve that I've drawn over here, right? So what you remember, there was a problem in the variable bypass vaporizer, that there was a chance that there would be retrograde flow of the vapor laden gas, right? Which we did not want over there. So what we had a labyrinth, a spiral labyrinth was added. Here that is not there. Here there is a one-way check valve. All right. So now, how does the desflurane work? Now we know at room temperature, desflurane will start boiling at 22.8 degrees, right? It will start boiling. So if desflurane within over here, if it reaches 22.8, which is around room temperature, it will boil. When the boiling will occur within this chamber, the pressure will rise. All right. The pressure will rise. At one point, what will happen? The pressure over here will exceed the pressure in the bypass chamber. The pressure in the vaporizing chamber will exceed the pressure in the bypass. So now what will happen? Because this pressure is exceeded, there is a risk that there could be a retrograde flow. There could be a retrograde flow. So immediately this one-way check valve closes. This one-way check valve will close and prevent the retrograde flow of the vapor-laden gas. Next, what will happen? This also, what happens is that now whatever fresh gas is incoming, the incoming fresh gas will not be able to enter into the vaporizing chamber. All right. So now the one-way check valve was closed. Fresh gas cannot enter in. There is no movement of gas over here. So fresh gas can't come in. So what will happen if it can't come in? All of the fresh gas will go through the bypass. all the fresh gas goes through the bypass. No fresh gas is over here. What is over here? Only pure desflurid vapors, pure vapors. Now what will happen? The pure vapors which are there, they will travel up through the flow. So now message, CPU is already getting messages, right? It's already getting message from the concentration control dial, pressure sensor, temperature sensor. All right, it's getting it from here, okay? All of these are giving the input to the CPU. CPU knows that already desflurane has been put inside, and CPU also knows that desflurane has crossed its boiling point. It also knows that there is no incoming gas over here. It knows that there are only vapors over here. CPU has all this knowledge. So CPU will then send messages to the flow control valve and accordingly allow only limited amount of pure desflurane vapors to leave and join the fresh gas and ultimately deliver the particular concentration which has been pre-decided. What has happened is the vaporizer is working like an injector. If you realize, it's just because there's the fresh gas is there and you're just injecting vapors into it, right? So now it's starting to work like an injector type of vaporizer with desflurane. So when you use high flow rate through this Aladdin cassette, okay, if high flow rates are used, high dial settings are used, a lot amount of the liquid starts to vaporize. Obviously, you will say vaporization, lot of evaporation. That means now what? There'll be a lot of cooling, right? So a lot of cooling. So you have to give external heat, right? So from where the external heat will be provided. So there is a facility in the anesthesia machine wherein there is a fan. A fan gets activated and warm air is passed over this cassette. So this particular anesthetic liquid gets warmed up. Okay. So this fan gets activated in two situations: during desflurane induction and maintenance and during sevoflurane induction. Okay. Now there are certain safety features which are there in this. Now there is that there is a Link 25 system, right? Like there is a wherein you ensure that a hypoxic gas mixture doesn't get delivered to the patient. So this Aladdin cassette vaporizer, it also has the electronic ratio control. Okay, so it will ensure that oxygen concentration leaving it is not less than 25%. Okay, this is one additional safety feature it's got. It also has a safety relief valve. Okay, so this valve will open if the pressure inside over here exceeds 1899 millimeters mercury. 1800, if just remember rough figure, 1900 millimeters of mercury, if it's exceeded over here, it's going to open up the safety relief valve. Okay, then when you remove the cassette, okay, so you might be worried, okay, I'll remove the cassette and then this fresh gas will leak out. So this fresh gas will not leak out. There are valves which prevent the leakage of the fresh gas when you are changing the cassettes. Okay, then it's also protected from overfilling and tipping. So overfilling and tipping are two problems which were there in variable bypass, which those problems don't exist over here. Okay, now we'll go to the Mackey injection type vaporizer. Okay, can you see this workstation? So this is actually the Mackey Flow Eye workstation. Okay, anesthesia workstation. It is only with this workstation that the injection type vaporizer can be used. Okay, it's inbuilt within this workstation. So if you can see, I will show you with the marker that this is actually the vaporizer over here. Okay, these are the vaporizers in this system. Okay, and it exclusively works with the Mackey Flow Eye workstation. It is again agent specific. It's available only for isoflurane, sevoflurane, and desflurane. Okay, and it has an agent specific filler. Now, this is also, can you see that there is no concentration control dial over here? I mean, if you can see clearly, this is a very blurred image, but there is no concentration control dial. Okay, so you have to electronically input the concentration of anesthetic agent that you want to get delivered. Okay, so whatever concentration you want delivered, you have to electronically input into the system. Okay, there is no need for turning a dial. Internal structure of this vaporizer, I will just draw it and you can have a look at it. It's very easy actually. It looks difficult, but it's easy. I've drawn that vaporizer over here. All right, so let's understand its parts. So this is the filling port, right, from where you will fill. Okay, this is the liquid anesthetic reservoir. This has got the liquid anesthetic. Okay, then this is the it tells you the level indicator. This is the okay. So at this, so you can see here the fluid comes, the anesthetic. Okay, and this is the level, which is the level indicator. This is a safety valve. All right. This is the vaporizer, liquid injector, actually. Injector. All right. And this is the drive gas. This is the fresh gas which is incoming. Okay. So over here, what happens is, how does this work? I told you that there is no concentration control dial, right? Can you see any concentration control dial? No, there is no concentration control dial. You have to enter it into the system, how much concentration you want to deliver. Now, there is a driving gas. Okay, there's fresh gas from, so fresh gas, which means what? Oxygen, nitrous. Okay, so this gas is used as a drive gas. So this drive gas is going to push, it's going to push over here. Okay, so this drive gas, because of which this push which occurs over here, all right, it will cause pressurization of this liquid anesthetic reservoir. Okay, so this liquid anesthetic reservoir will get pressurized. Okay, as the pressure in this increases, what will happen? Some amount of liquid anesthetic will leave it, go across, okay, and reach the liquid anesthetic injector. So this is the injector, this device. Okay, so this device is the injector. It will reach over here, then small, and the injector will cause the release of small intermittent, um, pulsed manner. In pulsed intermittent manner, it will cause the release of the anesthetic agent into this vaporizing chamber. So small pulses will be released from here into this vaporizing chamber. So this is the vaporizing chamber. This vaporizing chamber is heated. Okay, so this heated vaporizing chamber, so as soon as that pulse of liquid anesthetic is released, it gets vaporized because it is in a heated vaporizing chamber. But while it gets vaporized, not all will be vapors, right? Sometimes what happens, it gets deposited on the surface. So sometimes it might get deposited on the surface over here. So this surface which is there, this is an evaporative surface. So now what we want, that whatever, in case any agent has got deposited over here, it should not go waste, right? So there is a heating, there's a surface which is heated over here, heat is provided over there, and that whatever has got deposited over there inadvertently, that will also vaporize. Okay, so the fresh gas which is coming in, so the fresh gas is used for two purposes. This fresh gas is going to go to the patient, whereas this fresh gas is just going to use, it's going to be used as a driving pressure, okay, for driving. So here the incoming fresh gas is not containing any vapors. It comes into the vaporizing chamber, carries the vapors with it, and leaves out. Okay. Yeah. So in case the vaporizing chamber is not working properly, okay, the vaporization is not happening properly, what will happen? The safety valve will close. The safety valve will close, and this small aliquots of the liquid anesthetic which are going towards the injector will stop going. Okay, so this is a safe, it's one of the safety features.